August Bellanca Nest Home Inspection. I am showing you the anatomy of a plaster wall today. This is in my own home. I'm doing a series of renovations on an old home, and hopefully using this opportunity to show you some parts of the house that you might encounter in your own home. This is a plaster and lath wall. It consists of the framing, of the lath, and of the plaster. The plaster is held to the lath via these keys. When the application of the plaster is put on the wall, the technician squeezes the plaster through the lath. When these keys start to crack like this, you will see cracks in the wall. Often it is not a structural issue. Mostly it is nothing to be too concerned about other than the cost of the repair of having a professional come in and replaster your wall or repair it. That can be anywhere from a 1-hour job to a couple days, depending on how much plaster in your home is cracking and unkeying. The unkeying can be caused by mechanical forces, where somebody slams into the wall with, it could be in a high traffic area. It could be that your home is near highway traffic where there is vibrations coming through the home, or a train track. It could be just that you have a lot of humidity in your house, or in the past, before it was updated with air conditioning, and there was a lot of expansion and contraction in this lath, or just settlement in the house. But sometimes the plaster itself decays, and I'll show you what holds the plaster together. Turn the light on. These little horse hairs act as tensile strengthening device. It's a composite material, sort of acts like rebar in cement. The plaster consists of what's called the brown coat and the skim coat, or the white coat. The white coat is the finished part. It's very thin, and the brown coat is a very stable mixture that was applied with low moisture, so it wouldn't shrink so much. If you notice the framing on an older home, what we call a 2x4 today is 1.5 by 3.5. This is actually 2x4, 2 inches on the face and 4 inches deep. And you can take that into consideration when you may be ordering a medicine cabinet or something that's designed to fit in joist spacing, or if there's any structural work to be done in your home. A 2x4 metal hanger will not fit on a modern day 2x4 metal hanger will not fit over this kind of older wood. There's special renovation metal strapping and hangers that are actually 2 inches inner diameter to slide over and connect wood. And that's often used in the basement at the point of home sale if there's a cracked beam or joist. So just to give you an idea of how easily this comes off, in some areas, if you look in here, there's very low keyage. The key is not really hooked in very well, and it's not always evenly applied. I mean, this was put on in 1880, probably, so this is the year our home was built, 1880. And the plaster technician was pushing, smearing this on with great technique, but also unevenly. So here we go. In some areas, you can see it doesn't come off easily. But if you do see cracks on the ceiling in your home, I have literally been standing there looking at the plaster, and a chunk will just fall off of the ceiling, and that could clunk somebody on the head. So you definitely want to take care of the plaster on the ceilings as categorize that as a safety issue, and you'll see that as a safety issue if I'm doing a home inspection report. If there's severe cracking on the ceiling or unkeying, if the plaster appears to have unkeyed, there's certain patterns I can recognize that really tell me that it's unkeyed, where I don't have to look inside the wall, but I can see the pattern of plaster and how it is cracking. And then again, also I look for deflection and ceiling joist. If this were a horizontal plane instead of vertical, and you're standing on it for a floor joist, there would be a lot of deflection in that wood, and it would cause stress on the plaster and lath ceiling. So you can see I really have to work hard to get this off, but once it gets loose, it comes off easy once you unkey it. And that's really what we're looking for in a home inspection, is the condition of the plaster. If it is falling off, the whole wall, this can all be pulled off like I'm doing here, and it can be re-drywalled, which can be advantageous to you in the future, but you may not have that old look plaster wall. If you do want to spend a lot, have a heavy budget, you can get plaster guys in to recreate this, or recreate a veneer plaster where it's a plaster board behind it instead of the lath. If I were to rebuild this wall, reassemble it, I would also put in fire blocking, which is horizontal blocks in the wall that are modern code to prevent fire or drafts from coming up the interior of your wall. Another thing I'll show you, these wires in an old home, well, in a new home, all the wires have been inspected before, the wiring has been inspected before the walls were enclosed. We have updated wiring, but over the years, the wiring was fed through these old plaster and lath walls. They're not stapled to the wall. And when you're feeding wires through the wall, they can sit right at the surface of the wall. And if you just decide to hang a painting, but you don't use any device to detect electricity before screwing into the wall or driving a nail into the wall, you can hit a wire easily. As opposed to new construction, where there's a particular setback, they're expecting a certain size fastener to be used to fasten the drywall to the stud, and they are not expecting that somebody's going to hit the wire. And also, if there's a wire feeding through, there will be a metal plate to protect it, a nail guard. We do not have that in old homes, so who you let in your home to do the work should have a basic working knowledge of old homes, and not a beginner who would want to just, here I got a 3-inch screw, I'm going to hang a painting for a customer, just drive it into the wall. Those are things, as a home inspector, I am looking at a series of repairs over decades, and a series of material changes and additions that have happened through the Great Depression and all kinds of history that we've been through. Plaster has been around for centuries. It's mentioned in Leviticus in the Bible. It was important during the Black Plague and became very popular, widespread to use to prevent rodents from coming into the home. And it's lasted a long time as a solid method of sealing our homes, making smooth walls that are functional for us to live with. There are modern upgrades to this now, and most of them have to do with fire codes. Drywall, for example, is very resistant to fire. It actually steams at a certain heat and gives you some time to get out of your home or put the fire out. This is not very fire resilient, and there's wood right here, and fire can burn through this faster, has a faster burn through time than drywall. So that's just a few things to think about in an old home that's different from a new home. Thanks for being with me today. Have a good evening.